It's the Search Engine Journal Show with the founder of Search Engine Journal himself, Loren Baker. And here's your host.
Hey everybody, this is Loren Baker. Welcome to the Search Engine Journal Show. With me today, I have a very special guest, longtime friend and industry colleague, Agvila DeFazio. Agvila, welcome to the show.
Hi, Loren. Thank you for having me.
It's such a pleasure to have you here today. Fellow Californian, we were just talking about Paso versus LA in terms of lifestyle and weather and stuff like that. I love getting up there on vacation from time to time. It's a great area.
It is very much so, but personally speaking, we're just looking forward to getting back down to SoCal where our community is and just a few more opportunities for our little one.
Nice. So on the SEJ show, I don't just try to cover SEO, right? I try to cover digital marketing that is connected in a way to SEO or SEM, right? So we have SEM, SEO, paid search, and then all the other stuff that all the little octopus tentacles that come from that discipline and touch other forms of media. And Agvila, your specialty is, correct me if I'm wrong, social media advertising, correct?
That's correct, yes.
So could you go into a little bit about who you are, what you do at Advertise, and take it from there.
Sure thing. So I own a small social media advertising agency called Advertise. We've been in business for a little over 6 years, and we primarily work with e-commerce brands, mobile apps, events, more so pre-COVID, and some entertainment industry clients. And we specialize across Facebook ads to Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, trying to get some clients onto Snap and TikTok, but we can talk more about that here.
Absolutely. So we were talking a little bit about this before the show. In the world of paid search and SEO, really, it's like I don't see one discipline of internet marketing and digital marketing working on its own, right? This sounds very cliche, but there's no siloed discipline in the world of digital. There's touch points all over the place, right? So it's very rare that someone just goes to Google, searches in unbranded term, clicks on a site, and then with zero outside influence decides, hey, this site's for me. I've never seen it before, but I trust it. I'm going to buy from it, right? Typically, what happens is maybe that person goes and looks at other sites. Maybe they don't make the purchase decision at the time. Maybe they come back a week later to purchase something. Maybe they leave and they go to Amazon to see what the shipping looks like if they're a Prime member. So, but the ability to drive that first time visit into a shopper or a lead or a loyalist of a brand can happen down the road. And a lot of the time it happens where you have the ability to cookie, or I guess in the future, I'm not sure if we're going to have that anymore, but the ability to target the user through their journey as they're going on to different platforms. And this is where I see social media advertising being so important at the end of the day from an attribution perspective, right? So what are some of the, when you're running a remarketing campaign, what are some of the networks that you see performing the best from a social media advertising perspective? And what are some of the untapped opportunities that you're aware of within those markets?
Great question. Yeah, and to your point, consumers are much more savvy around now. Like more often than not, people will convert after they've had multiple touch points with your brand through different channels. You do get the occasional person that does click on something, maybe an ad that's a prospecting ad, and they'll purchase it primarily if it's a lower cost item. But with other things that might take a longer journey to, build that trust, do some shopping and comparing, maybe go to other websites and see if you can find discounts, the journey does kind of tend to be longer. So for retargeting, we make sure to have a really strong retargeting strategy, targeting different types of audiences with different creatives, messaging, whether they're cart abandoners or they've engaged with your brand on Facebook or Instagram or other channels, to people that might have spent percentage of their time on your site compared to people that might be bouncing a lot quicker. So there's a lot of opportunity there. Though I will say Facebook and Instagram, even though we were the golden handcuffs with them, that they do still perform best for a lot of our e-commerce clients in terms of retargeting conversions. Though for upper funnel prospecting campaigns that are lower in cost, we do see that Pinterest works very well there.
Well, let's talk about Pinterest a little bit, because they've been a player for a long time, right? A major long time. And it kind of seems like there's been a little bit more interest in Pinterest over the past year, year and a half. I don't know why. Maybe that's just me thinking that. But
no, you're right.
Have they done anything that's really changed? Because when I think of Pinterest, I think of like pictures of tablescapes and maybe recipes and things like that. So has Pinterest done much to change from a content and targeting perspective? And then how does their ad platform typically differ from other social networks out there?
Sure. So usage has been growing quite rapidly on Pinterest, especially in the last year. I think with people just being home more, maybe looking for arts and crafts, trying to improve their cooking skills, maybe looking for home projects and ideas to improve their homes. So I know that even looking at like the stock market, that people are saying like you should buy, and they're growing very quickly. It might be kind of the next thing, but I don't know, something to keep an eye on from a consumer standpoint, but also as a marketer or advertiser. When it comes to their platform compared to something like Facebook or Instagram, they are newer, so their targeting isn't as robust as what Facebook and Instagram have collected from user data over the years. But I don't know what it is. Like I've talked to a lot of other of our peers and other people on Twitter that work in our industry, and it's quite challenging to get somebody to purchase on Pinterest. But I think it's maybe people go there to look for ideas. They might just browse. They might see if they can do something themselves as a DIY option, where we've just personally found more success in driving people into our funnel at a very low cost and then retargeting them elsewhere. Plus, they have fewer ad placements compared to something like Facebook or Instagram combined. Facebook has about a dozen or so ad placements, so they have a lot more ad inventory. Where Pinterest, there's fewer users, it's growing, and fewer places to advertise. But the costs are still nice and low to get in if you haven't tested that channel out yet.
So is Pinterest user intent typically from a browsing perspective, like they haven't made that decision to purchase yet, but if they're browsing, then you can identify them based upon the content that they're looking at, or possibly what they're searching for, or something along those lines?
Yeah, that's what's interesting about Pinterest. It's that it's kind of a hybrid search and social tool, because you can use keywords, you can target based on keywords and searches. So that is a nice, that's a nice thing that they offer there, where you can't find that on other channels necessarily.
Cool. So Pinterest is very top of funnel. You can hit them later on Facebook and Instagram, but it sounds like Facebook and Instagram are really where you want to get those folks at the end of the day. Like that's where you close.
Yeah. But in comparison, like if you haven't tested Pinterest before for a prospecting upper funnel campaign, we're seeing about 13 cents per click on a traffic campaign, whereas Facebook or Instagram is a little closer to $1. So depending on what your budget is, who you want to target, I recommend don't silo yourself just to one platform, especially since Facebook's going through a big change right now. There's a lot of glitches. If you work in Ads Manager, you might be very familiar that it's not the most friendly platform to work in. So if something turns off without a valid reason, you're not going to be locked out and lose business that day, that you can find other channels to test out, maybe at a lower cost like Pinterest.
So what's going on with Ad Manager? Like I see people complaining. So people are complaining on Twitter about Ad Manager almost more than SEO Twitter is complaining about zero click and shrimp tails in their cinnamon toast crunch. So what's going on with Ad Manager right now?
It's always been a little glitchy, and since January and Apple announcing all of the changes, they're still going through that whole transition period, and Facebook's fighting them, and we're kind of caught in the crossfire of that. But there's a lot more things popping up that are showing errors, and typically where something might be rejected by their system, in the ad copy or the creative, and it's not valid because they'll say, oh, it's against the terms of service. Before, your ad would just get rejected and you could submit it for a manual review. However, lately we've had this happen. A lot of other people that instead of the ad getting rejected, your whole account gets locked down. And we've had to submit manual reviews. Like it's been so challenging, and the reps haven't been very helpful. And I feel like they're just distancing themselves from people because of what might happen when this full rollout happens with iOS 14, and we really start to see the implications of it. But like we got on, we had 2 client accounts that were banned for about 48 hours, 72 hours, although we've seen some other people on Twitter that haven't had their accounts reinstated for weeks. And if you're just advertising there, like that's really bad for business, right? So I feel like a lot of brands are being hurt by this, and they're trying to find other ways to reach their potential customers online.
And then if your Facebook ad manager account gets shut down, I assume then so will Instagram or other
Yeah.
Facebook
Yeah.
owned channels, right? So
Yes. So everything in Ads Manager will just turn off and you can't do anything.
that's not a good
For
thing.
them to, no, not at all.
That's not a good thing. So it sounds like diversifying your social media advertising campaign is pretty smart, especially if for any reason the big golden goose in Facebook gets shut down. Besides Pinterest, are there any other ad opportunities that you've been managing campaigns in that you would recommend to expand outside of Facebook?
Yes, if it works for your line of work, LinkedIn ads are fantastic. They work very well, but typically more for larger budgets and larger audiences. So if you're a small business, it might be challenging to get in front of the right viewers there. But organically speaking, it still has a lot of organic reach. So if you can start posting there, boost a few posts. But if you're doing LinkedIn, I would typically advise against doing text ads, which are the very tiny minimal ads that you might see in the corner. They tend to perform quite poorly. You don't really have an option to put too much ad copy in there. You don't really have much creative design there. They are really inexpensive, but I think it's better to allocate your budget to something like a sponsored post for your feed, where you would post something to your business page and then boost it like you would on Facebook. And if you do in-mail, which is their option to go right into somebody's inbox, I'll get a lot of those, and they can be super expensive, where it might be like $15 to $50, $60 an open. So just be sure that you craft your messages very well to that prospective audience. If it's going to be a cold email, there are just so many that are like, hey, buy me, sign this up. And it's like, well, who are you? Why are you in my inbox? Why should I be connected with you? Like, let's start like a real relationship, right? Like, you wouldn't come up to somebody at a networking event in person and be like, hey, nice to meet you. Give me your wallet, right?
Yeah,
so
let's partner.
I typically like, yeah, like, let's learn about each other first. How can this be beneficial? Maybe mutually beneficial. But I typically say that for retargeting, those work very well if you craft your message right to that warmer audience to get them to convert. But when it comes to Twitter, I wouldn't really some brands do well there, but their targeting options aren't that great. It's difficult to convert somebody. If you're doing an awareness play, by all means, run some Twitter ads at a low cost. But other than that, I would probably stick to other channels. And then, you were talking about Snap and TikTok before you hopped on here. And if you have a younger demographic and you have some really great visual content, test those out, because there's still a lot of opportunity there. It's not maxed out, so you can jump right in.
I think most of the TikTok videos I see are people that are sharing TikTok onto Facebook. I was actually an early adopter of TikTok when it was Musical.ly, and it was more so for kids, right? Actually, they got in trouble for that. I don't know if you should be talking, but it was an app built for kids to do lip syncing to music, or at least grew amongst like the community of minors out there. And my kid wanted to get into it, and we set it up and then deleted it. And then maybe 6 months later, I hear that it's TikTok now, right? And it's becoming so. So I'm happy to share that I'm an early adopter.
Are you doing dancing videos?
No time soon. No time soon. Last week on the SEJ show, we had on Jackie Chu from Uber, and we were talking about App Store optimization. And one thing I thought was really interesting, especially I believe on the Apple and the Google Play side, is the hybrid component of utilizing paid ads within the platforms and paid media to boost the downloads and ratings to rank organically within those platforms, right? The ability to accelerate the adoption of your app and show those quality metrics, which then the app stores and Google Play utilize with their organic algorithm. So one question I have for you is that when you're advertising on LinkedIn, how important is it for you to have an established and stable and updated organic profile for your company, or the executives of your company, or people that are integrated into your overall campaign?
I think it's very important, because sometimes if you're reaching out to new audiences and, naturally we're curious about things, so we may click on their account, we may check out what they're about, how active they are. I know personally speaking that if I were to click on something and they haven't posted anything in a while, I might wonder how active are they? If I have a customer service question, if I do become a customer, what's that going to look like if I run into an issue? How in tune are they with their industry or their customer base? So I feel like that's an important component to use to complement your other, your holistic marketing strategy, whether it comes to organic or paid or across different mediums.
So it's almost like a social proof component, right? Hey, I saw this
Yes.
advertisement. Let's check out the company. Oh, they haven't posted anything for 3 years. Oh, they have everyone on their employee page no longer works there anymore. So yeah.
As an employee too, it's also important to, hopefully you're excited about where you work and you'll naturally want to share things. I know that when I used to work in-house for a variety of companies and we had something exciting going on, whether it was in the news that might be related to us or internally as a company, I would encourage the staff when I worked more on the organic social side of things that I would even compose posts. I'm like, hey, can you share this to make it easier for you? If you believe in this, maybe change something just so it sounds more authentic to you. But I feel like we should share our successes, maybe challenges that we've overcome. And that gets people hyped up internally. It can get us more motivated, but it also looks really good on the outside to people that might be interested in what you have to offer, whether it's products or services. And I feel like it's naturally a winning element to your brand.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. It's great to motivate people that are within the company to share accordingly. And then you can monitor people who don't share and you can see how happy they are.
Yeah. It's like, what are you not telling us about where you work? And, should I become a customer?
Well, and the interesting thing about LinkedIn too is we were talking about this a little bit before we jumped on is I've done audits the past couple of years of the social media traffic that's come to Search Engine Journal. And we're obviously the B2B publication, right? So out of all of the social media traffic that came from LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and then maybe one other, maybe Google Plus at the time or something like that. Mm-hmm. Maybe Pinterest. So out of all the social media traffic that came to the site, LinkedIn had the most value. So LinkedIn visitors, albeit them less than Facebook and Twitter, downloaded more often. They signed up to the email newsletter more often. They were more interested in ebooks and webinars and things like that than traffic from Facebook, than traffic from Twitter. Twitter was a close second, though, however. Really interesting. I kind of see Twitter as a hybrid between B2B and B2C. So that kind of makes sense. And then Facebook, we had the most traffic, but not necessarily the most targeted. And a lot of that may also have to do with the amount of news that we publish that's about maybe not what to do with this specific item in terms of Google search marketing or SEO, but about Google itself or Instagram itself or something like that. But I found it really interesting that LinkedIn, I think LinkedIn has an issue with their inbox. Like when I think of LinkedIn, or when I talk to most people about LinkedIn, they're like, well, it's spammy. It's too spammy. I don't like going there at all. People are pitching me before I even accepted their invitation to connect, right? So, but I kind of see that as exciting because in the same way that search has become all Google, and I'm excited about what's happening with Bing growing, with DuckDuckGo, with other, I believe it was launched by, was it Salesforce or another company? But all of these new search engines that are launching right now, they may not take off. And there's always been like the anticipation of Apple possibly launching their own, but all of their own. And then I think about that on the social media side too. We've been so Facebook centric for the past couple of years. The ability to grow in new platforms sounds pretty amazing. So, point being is that in addition to, we talk about Pinterest and Snap and even LinkedIn as being alternatives, but it's really like Microsoft and Pinterest and Snap Technologies, right? So is there anything else that's growing right now? Because it seems to be like, I saw that Microsoft was acquiring, what's the chat app for
Clubhouse?
gamers?
Oh
my God.
The streaming one?
Yeah.
I don't know. I saw so much last year.
If you know in the comments, let me know. Microsoft.
Twitch or no? Was it Twitch?
Acquires. No. Discord.
Oh, okay.
Discord. So there's a lot of secondary Twitter style Discord, and then there's like political oriented ones and other like. It seems like there's a lot of niche social communities that are popping up. Have you been aware or tested any of the marketing options within those communities, or do you even know if they're available?
No, not yet. I I am curious as to what is going to happen with more audio type of apps that are coming out, or features that a lot of other companies are taking on. Like, Twitter launched, was it Spaces? And then there's Clubhouse, which is the predominant one. So, it's early on. There's hype, of course. A lot of people have jumped in, but it'll be interesting to see what advertising opportunities will come across there. And maybe we'll see, Spotify might be a good place to start trying to advertise, just to kind of get into the audio space.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's not quite a social channel, but there's some social components of it that, cross shares into other social platforms. But I think it's a good time for us to get out of our comfort zones. And like you're saying with LinkedIn, like maybe people are just higher quality prospects there, because, Facebook and Instagram is just so saturated on our day to day that maybe we do come to LinkedIn with more intentions to actually learn something or connect with people, except for the people that are really abusing it with the sales process.
I feel like when I'm on LinkedIn, I feel like I've gone into a social media time machine back 10 years, because I'll post something, and I'll get like 100 likes. Like, whoa! Like, I posted something about SEMrush going public yesterday, shared a picture, and there's already like 300 likes and engagements on it. And I'm like, it's blowing up. And I'm like, wow, like this is just like Twitter used to be. This is how Facebook used to be.
Yeah.
So there's that component on LinkedIn. I like
enjoy it while you can.
I know, right? I know. So always looking for the next big thing. What about outside of social media advertising? Because I know Facebook had their publisher network, or do they still have it? Like, are there expansions outside of the social tools themselves that are part of this whole engagement, typically when you're working on a client campaign?
Yeah, there's also the audience network within Facebook, super low volume, but they don't really give you insights into what types of sites or apps are in that network. We typically keep it on for most clients just because the volume is very low, and once in a while we'll get a conversion at a super low cost. So it's like, let's keep it running in the background. Then there's WhatsApp. I feel like maybe that has room to expand more just because it's part of their network, but I hate to say this, but it's still part of the whole Facebook ecosystem, but Instagram's still growing, and I'm willing to bet that they're probably going to launch more ad placements because they need more ad inventory there, particularly with IGTV getting more popular compared to the first launch of it, where they're like, oh, it's going to be YouTube's ad killer or YouTube's killer. And that totally flopped because that was about the same week that they launched stories. But then we probably will see maybe some ads and reels. So keep an eye out there too. I do hope some other channels pop up and maybe grow a little bit quicker, just so we're not stuck to Facebook and Instagram, and have a healthier balance across different channels.
I think it's no secret that when any innovative app launches, the larger companies tend to replicate that success and then bring it in-house, right? So this all started when Apple, when iPhones first came out, the flashlight app was like the most popular app in the App Store. And then Apple made an update where they have their own built-in flashlight app and just killed whoever owned that app, right? So go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I remember listening to a podcast, and with Facebook and other platforms, that they're like, oh, we're either going to try to acquire you, and if you say no, we're going to replicate and kill you.
Right, exactly. So that's, to an extent, is kind of happening right now with, I know Instagram kind of borrowed the TikTok idea and integrated that in the Reels. And then also we talked about Twitter Spaces and Clubhouse. So have you attended many Twitter Space oriented conversations, and how would you compare those to Clubhouse? Because I signed up to Clubhouse just to grab my username, and that was it. So I'm really a novice when it comes to either of these, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on both different applications if you had a chance to attend all of those really smart conversations.
Unfortunately, not too many. It's been hard to juggle a child and a business during the pandemic with limited childcare. So I really have to choose my time carefully. Though in the evenings, I do pop into Clubhouse just to tune in for a little bit. I do like the ease of the app, that you can just join and leave and find different types of conversations based on your interests. And with Twitter Spaces, I've popped in once for a few minutes, but I don't know if I can share too much of the difference. I think it's just which platform you prefer and maybe what types of conversations you're looking to join, or maybe even start your own room and invite some people to it. But it could be a good awareness tool for what you're talking about, what your area of expertise is, maybe get some social media PR out of it, and just to grow your network.
Well, the interesting thing is, and I think you just kind of brought this up, like you have the ability within Clubhouse or within Twitter just to start something, right? Like how many, like you can start a page within Facebook, but it's a little bit difficult to start something where you have an audience, like almost automatically where they can jump in. And it's a really big opportunity on that side. And then also speaking of the pandemic, the more and more I read on like how people's day-to-day has changed. So for example, podcast downloads have dropped significantly because people are no longer driving, or for the past year have not been commuting into work, right? Where listening to a podcast during that hour commute or 30-minute commute or 3-hour commute is a nice way to learn. It's a nice way to relax, decompress, et cetera, et cetera. Also going to the gym, right? People typically go to the gym, you listen to a podcast if you're not listening to music or something, just to enjoy the time a little bit more and to multitask. So do you feel like, based upon what you're seeing with things opening up again and then Clubhouse launching, right? So all of the podcast listens went down and the Clubhouse launches and suddenly audio is a big thing again. Where do you see this going, like as things open up, right? As the vaccines are out there, as restaurants, as workplaces open up again, at least maybe half the week or something. Do you think there's going to be an increase in audio social or audio podcasts and downloads, or left to be on?
That's the question, right? I feel like it will go up, but it might be a slow curve up just because I feel like people will want to go to places they've missed to see people. So they might be more focused on just the in-person human interaction. Though if they're driving back to the office, like I feel like that's a good opportunity to get back into podcasting. And but with summer right around the corner, I feel like maybe we'll see a slow increase for that. And then maybe in the fall, once things, we're maybe more accustomed to being back out in the public, the weather gets colder, then we'll probably see an uptick again. I don't know. We'll see.
Hopefully we'll see. Yeah, it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time, all things considered. We have a couple minutes left. One question I wanted to ask you is, someone's running a Facebook campaign right now. Say they're like passively running a Facebook ad campaign. What are 3 things they should look at in terms of bettering their return on ad spend or overall engagement around their ad campaign? What are 3 simple things they can start out with?
3 simple things. Okay, so first thing, if you haven't done so yet, verify your domain, get your conversion event set up, and then add the conversions API, which is the server-side tracking, not just your pixel-based. So step 1, because if you don't have those, you can't optimize for certain conversions like a purchase once iOS fully rolls out. So do that first. Second thing, test different variables, whether it's different audiences, whether it's different ad copy or images or videos. That can help you see what works or what doesn't with a particular audience. So use those metrics like the video views of how long they watched a video for, or the click-through rate if you're trying to send people to your website. And then figure out what type of content works best for those different audiences, and just make sure that you have a funnel set up. So if you have a prospecting campaign to reach new people, spend about 75% of your budget there and the rest of it for retargeting to get people down the funnel, and make sure that everything is seamless and intuitive for those users and those different audiences and their familiarity with you to take that action that you want them to take.
Amazing. I had no idea that you can track conversion on the server side and not just utilizing the third-party pixels. So
that's new, and definitely want to do that.
That's great. Also, I would imagine that having that on the server doesn't slow down the site as much by having all of these pixels and third parties and all over the place, right?
Yeah, it does not. It shouldn't. The file size is very small, so you shouldn't notice any site loading time issues.
Cool. So I'm dropping a couple of links right now in the comments, and I apologize. I spelled your first name wrong in the first comment.
Oh.
When people misspell my name, which happens all the time, it always drives me crazy. So I just wanted to be proactive and apologize for that.
I appreciate it.
But then also your Twitter. Where else can people find you online and learn more about what's going on in the world of social media advertising and what updates they should be making right now to get a better return on their ad spend?
Most of it on Twitter, but you can find me at advertise.com or on LinkedIn just by searching my name.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to hear that you're moving back down, or at least moving to the Southern California area. Yeah. It's great timing because I do miss all the little meetups and things like that we've had in the area over the past couple of years. So in terms of community. I know a lot of the folks that you socialize with in your community of folks as well. So really excited to hear that. And it's been a pleasure. I'm also sharing your LinkedIn right now for all of the live viewers who are on. And then again, for any of you that are listening to the podcast, you can find Akvila, just search for her name, Akvila DeFazio, and you'll find her Twitter, LinkedIn, and also akvertise.com. Akvila, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Loren.
Okay, I'm gonna roll our outro. So it's twice as exciting as the intro. Here we go.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Search Engine Journal Show. If you like this episode, subscribe to our channel and click on the notification bell so you don't miss a thing.